Dentistry and General Radio Network presents
the Independent Dental Practice Podcast with Dr. Sonny Spera. In this episode,
welcome to the Independent Dental Practice Podcast. Today we're going to talk to Dr. Len Tau. Our topic is going to be online presence, and there's nobody better to speak to than Len Tau. He has created and facilitated so many dentists to increase their and improve their online presence and reviews. He's currently a employee of BirdEye, and he sold his product to BirdEye, which has created their whole reputation management online presence in the dental space. He is brutally honest, and he has a wealth of information. You're really going to appreciate and love this show. If you like the show, please click like, share, subscribe, share it with your friends. If you don't like it, please contact me, 607-624-2962, sonnyspera@gmail.com. Also, we are in the market. We're looking for a doc to join our practice, our group. It's a complete insurance independent practice. We have 5 offices upstate New York. Reach out if you have any interest. Thanks, everybody. Appreciate you listening.
Building a Powerful Online Presence, Dr. Len Tau's Guide to Dental Growth, a discussion with Dr. Sonny Spera.
Welcome to the Independent Dental Practice Podcast, Dr. Sonny Spera. Today I have a good friend of mine who agreed to come on, and he's always a delight to talk to. In fact, we've been talking off air so long, I'm like, hold on, we got to record this. So hold on, let's get going. So Dr. Len Tau, he is a leading authority in dental consulting, reputation, marketing, and practice growth. And this guy, by the way, is a practicing dentist. Now he has not practiced, and he is, and I'll fill that rest of that stuff in. Recognized by Dentistry today as a top consultant, dental consultant for 8 straight years. Author of Raving Patients and 100 plus tips to 100 5-star reviews in 100 days. You got that right. 100, 100, 100. After 20 plus years of clinical practice, he now helps dentists nationwide increase their revenue, case acceptance, and visibility. He leads the dental division at BirdEye, hosting the Raving Patients podcast, and runs the Supercharge Your Dental Practice podcast conference, empowering dentists practices to thrive in today's competitive landscape. Let's welcome Dr. Len. How you doing, Len?
Good, Sonny. Thank you for having me again. I appreciate it.
You betcha. When is the Supercharge Your Dental Practice? That's coming up in September?
September 27th and 28th this year. This is year number 3. It's in Fort Lauderdale, Florida at Pier 66, which is a brand new, I mean brand new, it's like 7 months old, resort in right about 5 miles from the airport. Year 1 was in Delray Beach, so that was 2 years ago in 2023. We moved it to Scottsdale last year, and I decided to, you know what, I live in Florida, I live in a beautiful area, let's have it permanently down here. So for the next 3 years at least, it's at this hotel, Pier 66, same weekend every year, September 25th and 26th, or 24th and 25th, depending on how the calendar falls.
What town is it in?
It's in Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
Business and marketing. 14 amazing speakers, lots of sponsors. I rented a 120-foot yacht to do our Friday evening event on. I bring it the right way, and it's amazing. It's interesting. Over the time I've been doing this, ticket sales always increase right now, and we're talking about 5 or 6 weeks before the event. People make decisions at the last minute, and that's what's happening with these registrations that are coming in. I'm excited to do it. It really helps me kind of put a spin on things that I know really well, which is how to put an event on and how to make sure the attendees are happy, but also how to make sure the vendors are happy and the vendors want to come back every single year.
Yeah, that's me. I generally don't make decisions too soon. In fact, I was trying to set up something to go in March. Can't make an airline reservation. I was like, wait a second. Here's the first time in my life I've really planned ahead.
And you can't do it. You can't get a plan.
I couldn't make the flight. And flying out of the Binghamton area, I've got to be creative. I'm either going to go to Syracuse or I'm going to drive to Newark. It's not just, I'm going to get on a plane and I'm just going to fly an easy connection. No, it's very limited flights out of our local airport. But I go to Syracuse, I can get better flights. But even then, I got to be creative on how I'm getting there, you know.
It's easy to get to Fort Lauderdale. So almost every airline flies there. So it's 5 miles from the airport. So it's no excuse on that.
Multiple options to get there. Today's topic, we're going to talk about online presence. Obviously, Len and his beginnings in the private industry was in online presence. So let's talk a little bit. Let's give some people, because I know your background, but give some of your background of where this whole thing, the genesis of this whole online and reviews and all that stuff. Talk about your practice and how that got started.
So when I bought my practice back in 2007, I had bought it from a dentist who unfortunately committed suicide. I always say that their misfortune was my fortune, is really how I describe it. In 2007, online marketing was very different than it was now.
So can I
And
ask you a quick question? You bought the practice from someone who committed suicide. How soon thereafter did you buy the practice?
so they, if I remember my dates correctly, January 14th of 2007, and I took possession of the practice March 19th or March 21st, 2007. So just a couple
Okay.
months later, the estate had a couple of his good friends run the practice while it was being sold, so it was still actively running.
Okay.
Fortunately for me, the team agreed to stay after meeting me. A few of them said they were not going to stay, but after meeting me, they were. And when I sold the practice in 2021, I still had one of the team members still remaining with me after all those years. But internet marketing wasn't really a thing back then. Facebook didn't really exist, actually did not exist. So most people did traditional marketing. They
Yeah.
did magazines,
Just
ads,
Yellow
newspaper,
Pages.
magazine, radio, television.
Hmm.
Um,
Yellow
so
Pages was a big.
exactly. And Facebook from our perspective, not even from a business perspective, but from like a group perspective, these Facebook groups didn't exist either. So you went to
Right.
where and you went to Dental Town. That's where you went for advice. And I went to Dental Town and asked for advice. And the thread is still up there. I said, "Hey, I'm thinking of buying a practice with the dentist committed suicide," and I got railed. I got railed on. People were like, "No, don't buy it. Waste of money. Terrible decision. Blah 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 blah."
Patients
And
are all leaving. Yeah.
yep, everybody's going to leave. And of course, that was not the thing I wanted to read back then. But I hired the recommendations that were on Dental Town. That's what I did. Didn't know any different. And they helped me market the practice. And I didn't see that much success. I really didn't. So I
So
started
these people that you hired, these marketers, so they were going to either increase your presence in the different medias that you just hit on, correct?
a little bit online website. I hired a company to do a website. I was doing SEO on it. It was very beginning of online marketing. But yes, they gave suggestions on magazines or like supermarket, which I didn't do, but how to put an ad in your local supermarket, do postcards, which I never did. So there's some things I just
Direct
wasn't
mailers.
direct mailers. I never did that until I brought an associate in 2017. We did mailers then for her. That was the one time we did mailers. But I didn't find success in that stuff, and it was expensive. I never did billboards. That stuff I didn't do.
Wait a
But that
second.
was
You didn't do the benches at like the bus stop benches? You didn't do that?
no supermarket things, no, nothing. I did some radio ads. I did some magazine ads,
Okay.
which were successful. I did some local newspaper stuff. But online is when online started to proliferate. That's where I started to see the patients coming in from.
Did
And
you, how did you track that stuff, by the way, when you did all those different things?
so it's interesting. Back then, I was using tracking numbers. And I still remember I did an ad in Philadelphia Magazine, which was the premier magazine in Philadelphia.
Hmm.
Super expensive advertising. We put an ad. The company that recommended said you need to put a tracking number in there. And when people called the office, it would say, "This is a call from Philadelphia Magazine." So we knew it was called a whisper greeting, is what it was called. And so my team knew that someone was calling from this ad, and it brought in some significant dollar amounts the first couple of years. It was a huge return on investment for me. But what I was able to prove to Philadelphia Magazine back then was that the data on the tracking number over time, it became stale. It was not working as well as it did in the beginning. And eventually, after a couple of years, I stopped doing it because I wasn't seeing ROI on it. So
Did it taper or did it just die?
no, it tapered down. The number of calls went really high in the beginning, and then over time, over a couple of years, we were just getting a couple of calls after a couple of years, a month. And like I said,
Did
I
you
was able to show them the data, and they understood why I was stopping subscribing advertising with them.
did you change your ad after each year?
We changed the photos and we changed the verbiage in the advertising. Yeah. We
So it wasn't like it got stale. You changed the message as well. So it wasn't like you just put it out there and then just continue to run with the same exact ad for 3 years.
correct. No, we changed things up. It just again, the results bottomed out, I guess you can say, and it became a losing proposition for me. So we stopped doing it.
Yeah, that's just good business. That's smart business.
But you have to
Yeah.
track. And even nowadays you have to track, even more so. Okay. And that's a very big misconception in the industry as well. My team asks how they heard about me. That's not the same way as tracking what the actual advertising is doing. It's a very different way of thinking.
Hmm. So you've done this, and then so basically you're throwing spaghetti on the wall and seeing which sticks, right? So you've
Darts.
tried
Yep. So darts. Yep.
10 different things, and that worked, that fades. So tell me how the online part, how did that kick up?
Real quick, the worst investment I made was I did a radio advertising campaign for the Philadelphia Phillies.
Oh
Okay.
wow,
I actually,
that's a lot of games too.
yep, I sponsored what was called, it was called the Bull Session. And if you know who the Bull was, it was Greg Luzinski. And
Oh, I know Greg. Yeah, I know that guy. Yeah.
he had a session at a local bar and pub, and I sponsored that. So I got to be on the episodes. I got literally a half a season tickets of the Phillies, even though I was a Yankee fan. I still used the tickets,
That's hard.
but we got no patience from it. And I say that wholeheartedly. It was a complete waste of money. It was a terrible loss. The guy who sold me the advertising, his name was Lee. And Lee felt so bad that he became a patient of mine because I literally got no money, nothing, no patience from it. And he ended up doing Invisalign and a couple of other things. But that was the only thing. I got literally diddly squat from that. So over the first few years, and this is like 2007, 8, 9, really, it was a website and that was it. And then all this other traditional marketing. And then I realized when I started to go more online, that's where I was getting the majority of my patients from. And that's where I invested forever at that point. But I learned to do it on my own. Other than a website, I started to market on my own. I started to do a lot of the social media stuff as it started to proliferate. I was the first dentist to have a Facebook page. And that's where I found where I was, people were, when I asked them how they found out about me, they said, I saw you online, I read your reviews. And that's really when things started to change in like 2009, 2010. That's where like a significant increase in the number of patients that I had gotten happened.
You just glazed over something that I think is such a huge point. You pivoted. You sent out all those signals into the world. And one of them was doing fairly well, like you said. But then you said, wait a second, this is better. And then you pivoted and you went all in on that. And that became your focus. I think people have to understand you can't continue to throw good money after bad without knowing what it's doing, right? You don't know your ROI. You don't know if there's returns. And don't be afraid to change, right? If you didn't change, we're not having this conversation. You know what I mean?
My whole life is different. My whole life is different.
So continue. I'm sorry. I think that's a huge point.
Yeah, no, I started to try things online. I started to push the envelope online, but the results were coming in and my practice grew significantly. One of the first things I did, and this was in June of 2010, still remember, I was the first dentist in Philadelphia to ever offer a Groupon. And Groupon is very different now than it was then. But it was more of services that we were providing coupons for, but it wasn't, other than the exam cleaning and x-ray part, it really wasn't a discount. And it was like, hey, you got a $500 coupon towards Invisalign. But I ended up overnight when the deal ran, I think it was June 10th, 11th, and 12th, if I remember correctly, of 2010, we sold over 500 deals. And overnight we had potentially to have 500 new patients added to the practice. And basically you split the cost of how much it makes with Groupon back then. So that was a huge boost to the practice right then and there. But it ended up allowing me to create what we called the oral health savings plan. And the oral health savings plan was a membership plan back then. And it really didn't exist. Now you have membership plans online. I ran it all myself in the office, but it became patients who had no insurance. It gave them loyal to my practice. And to this day, there are people who were still in the practice from then. In 2010, they were still using the savings plan every single year because they don't have insurance. So that was another big thing that happened because of it. But no, once I started to do it on my own, I got the ear of local doctors who asked me to speak at their local study clubs. Then I got the national eye and won the 2012 ADA new speaker contest. So I was on the ADA. I was at the ADA meeting speaking in 2013 and then 2015 again. It really was, I was doing something that people weren't doing back then and really successful. But the biggest thing over the years that really helped, or what I recognize is really helping the practice, was online reviews. Back in the day, things were very different. Dentists were using companies like DemandForce. DemandForce had a relationship with Google. When you got the review, it went to your Google reviews. That's what it did. In 2000, I think it was 10 or 11, Google eliminated that opportunity. And all these doctors with thousands and thousands of Google reviews through mostly DemandForce, literally overnight, like that, lost every single one of their reviews. And they went from thousands to down to 0 or 10. I had a couple of hundred back then. And it literally at that point when patients came in, almost every single one of them had said, I found you online and I read your reviews. That's why I'm coming in. And that really meant a lot. And it stayed in my head a lot is, why is this such a difference than in the past? And that's really obviously where my whole career changed.
Okay, folks, let me just interrupt for 1 second. Folks, if you haven't figured it out yet, Len's memory is off the charts. Okay. So if he says, I think it's this, I can guarantee you those dates are spot on. I can ask him, hey, Len, you remember when we met? He'll tell you exactly where we were. He probably can tell me when
in Minnesota. I remember exactly where we were on the phone.
You know what I mean? It's insane. It's just insane. So it's just like, just so we know, because you keep going, I think it was. No, I'll bet the farm on it. I'm not a gambler, but I'll bet on it. So I do want to ask you though, since patients are coming in and they're telling you, I saw you, so you recognize the online presence. How did you get patients to give you reviews? What was your tactic?
So back then, it was very different than it was now. So back then, we could offer an incentive. So we did. We incentivized patients. You could get the people to sit at your desk in your office and write a review because it was new, and we did that. So everything that we did, we had signs up in the office. We still asked patients, but there was really nothing out there that was really easy to do it. And that's where my whole career shifted because I created something that did. I realized how important reviews were, and I found a better mousetrap, I guess you can say. And that's where iSocial reviews came about, which BirdEye bought from me in 2014. So I found a way that really helped dental practices get reviews. It was literally a Chromebook we used, so one of those small computers. They basically put their name of the patient, the email address in there, and their phone number, and it sent them a message through the software that we created. And that message made it easy for patients to write a review. And again, was just the beginning of time. And to this day, it's amazing how I got very lucky. I really did. I tried lots of things, but focusing on the reviews back in 2012, basically, even 13 years later, reviews are more important than ever before. You have to have
You didn't get
reviews.
lucky, Len. Hold on a second. You didn't get lucky. Listen to the couple of things that you hit on so far. Okay. You saw that this wasn't happening. Boom. You started to create it. Your loyal savings plan, right? Way ahead of your time. You see that the ROI, that things are going this way. You invest in it, you put your time in it, you create it. You now create this pathway to getting a review placed by a patient who's happy to do it. It's not like you're holding a gun to their head. They're happy to do it, but you're making it easier. So to me, I think your greatest gift is you see a void or you see a need, you create the solution. So you create the software that facilitates the ease of placing a review.
Correct. I made it easier for patients to do it. And that proved the concept that there was a need in the industry for this particular type of product, really what it was.
Right now, the normal dentist would be super protective, right? And want to hoard that and not let anybody else in on that, right? Because you've now got that market, that baby market, that blooming market to yourself. But now you create this. What was the impetus to sell it or to turn it over or sell that to BirdEye? Just a good business decision?
Yeah. So you mentioned I created something and I shared it. Well, I was sharing things all the time because that was my initial speaking, which was, you talk about dates, September 21st, 2010. I remember the exact date too. I gave a big seminar in Philadelphia. And people come up to me, it's like, why would you be sharing this? The specialist, why would you be telling your colleagues about this? It was always about abundance for me. To this day, people, I spoke for Invisalign all over the country, and I was sharing tips on how to get more Invisalign. It was all about online presence. And people were saying, like, why would you be doing this? I'm like, because that's the type of person I am. I've always been that way. But I wanted to prove a concept. I still remember I called my wife one day and said, I'm going to build a piece of software that's going to help dentists get online reviews. And she was like, yeah, have at it. That's what she said, basically. Have fun, enjoy. I still remember where I was when I was talking to her on the phone. And I never imagined all these years later, it would literally have changed my entire career. I went from clinical dentist to retired at 49. But I proved the concept. I realized I didn't have the capacity to engineer stuff. I didn't have the capacity to take it to the next level. And when BirdEye heard about me, the owners of BirdEye, who still own the company as we're still privately held, when they heard about what I was doing, they wanted my revenue, number one. They were trying to raise some money. So they wanted my revenue. They wanted my ideas that I brought to the product, but they wanted my expertise in the space. And I made a decision in September of 2014, so it's almost 11 years ago, that I would let them acquire me and I would help run their dental division for them. And that's where we are. 11 years later, we have close to 11,000.
Where was your business at when you sold it to them?
I was about 180 dentists at that point. So I went to my first
what was the revenue like? What was that? What that look like?
$720,000, I think it was.
$720,000. So they're buying a revenue of $720,000, which now has grown to
where the company itself is probably at $70 million now. But it's not only dental. We're about 11,000 strong in dental, but we have 1,300 employees. I was probably employee number 10. I got it on the ground. And it's interesting because I'm in sales now. There's very few positions that you see someone staying at the same company all these years without changing.
Especially in sales.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Yeah.
They'll parlay this and then someone will recruit them. Hey, you're a great salesman.
I've had
CBCT.
opportunities and they can't pay me enough, and nor do I think I would ever be passionate about it as much. Everybody calls me the BirdEye guy, and that's what they call me. It's like a nickname. It's been an interesting run. I've really enjoyed it. I speak
But
all over
Len,
the
you
country.
walk the walk. You don't talk the talk. You walk the walk. And that to me is the difference. That's what makes it authentic and genuine. And that's who you are. That's where the meat and potatoes are, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the things that I look for when I'm working with somebody.
Yeah, look, we spoke back. It was probably 2016 or 2017 when you first came on board with BirdEye, a long time ago. And I've been able to speak. I've given over 600 presentations. I've been at almost every single big event that's out there, either as a vendor or a speaker. So that's why it's now I'm in the business of putting on an event, because I've learned the good, the bad, and the ugly about putting events on. I've been in some that are horrific, and I've been on some that are great, and I've incorporated all those things. Now, is when I went into this game or this other avenue of my career, I made a commitment to providing quality CE with great speakers, great venues, because you don't always get that. And I wanted to put my own stamp on things, and that's what I've done now. But it's been I'm 52 now. I'm 52 years old. I stopped practicing at 49. And because people say you're lucky, I'm lucky that I was able to get out of dentistry, but I had another career. It's not like I stopped like life. I still work harder than I did when I was in dental practice, in my
Well,
opinion.
you didn't get out of dentistry. You just
No,
shifted your
I'm
focus.
embedded tremendously in dentistry still.
Yeah, 100%. And dentistry is glad. To me, I'm going to speak for dentistry. We're glad you're in it.
I appreciate it.
So talk about what does the online look like now, right? You talked about back then you could do this, back then you could do that. What does it look like now? What does it look like for a dentist to try to get reviews?
It's still very similar. That's one thing that has not changed. You can incentivize.
Can't send them.
You can do it in your office. You don't want to do it you don't want your patients doing it in the office because of IP address conflicts, but also location services being turned on the patient's phone. So that Google actually knows they're being left in your physical office space. And if you get too many of those, you start losing some potentially. So there's no raffles allowed. You really want to ask, you still have to ask. If you don't ask, you don't get. You should really have a discussion. The discussion that I like to talk about is when a patient comes up to the front desk, the first thing you should ask them is not for their money. You should ask them how their visit was. And as long as you get some positive response, then you want to say, we really appreciate hearing that. Your opinion counts, and we would love to get some feedback about that. And we're going to make it very easy for you to do that. You may be getting, and I say may because sometimes they don't get it, but you may be getting a correspondence, text message, or email that's going to ask for feedback about your experience. And we look forward to reading what you have to say. That's really how you present it. So it's not uncomfortable. Asking for a review for some people is uncomfortable. Okay. In this case, it's not. And we make it really easy. I teach the verbiage to everybody. I talk about the proper verbiage to use. And when the message goes out, we make it easy for them to do that. And it's different than other products that are out there simply because we have some proprietary stuff that makes it really easy compared to your traditional message that comes out from any type of texting service. There is a difference. But even more importantly now, Sonny, is the fact that people think that if they get reviews, it turns into new patients. And that's absolutely not the case. Okay? It is very much that you need the visibility online as well. So you need to people be able to see the reviews, okay, where they actually turn into patients. So the visibility key is something that's been missing for a very long time. And I know there's a lot of dentists out there who have a lot of reviews, but if you look deep down into how they're ranking online, their ranking sucks. And they're not taking advantage of this amazing social proof that they have. And that's a direction I've been teaching for a very long time, is that you need the visibility. Google looks at a lot of ranking factors to determine how they trust the business. And if they trust the business, they rank you. If they don't trust the business, they don't rank you. And that ultimately is the key to being or seeing the reviews really turn into new patients, is that visibility part as well. Now, especially with AI and the proliferation of people using ChatGPT and all these other products, reviews are even more important than they ever were. Do you think Google, or let's talk about OpenAI, would ignore all this huge database of reviews that is basically being provided by people out there? They're not going to do that. So reviews are even more important. So you have to place even more of a focus on that than you did before.
So visibility, right? And Google. Let me ask you another question. Are other search engines making any dent or anything anywhere? Is Bing or anybody else in the game?
In my opinion, it's still Google. There's other browsers people use. There's other search engines. When I poll people at seminars I give, it's always who's using Google, and 99% of the room answers raises their hand. You may have something that is 1 or 2% market share, but it doesn't have the same effect.
So it's not even close. It's a Google world. That's what I felt too.
That's
You
the
know what
world
I
we
mean?
live in. What we
Yeah.
live in.
Are there any ways to connect or have some synergy for online things?
So when you say connect, what type of synergy are you talking about?
Okay, so let's say all right, our dental practice, we use a local builder or something, right? And the builder, and we share back and forth commonality. Like we recommend them, they recommend us. Like, you see it a lot of times, right? Products being placed together kind of thing. Is that a thing in online presence at all?
It's I'm sure it can be. I just haven't really taken advantage of that. I think you need to be successful online, you need a multifactorial or a multi-differentiated way of marketing. You need to be out there in various ways. You need reviews, you need a great website, you need an interactive website, in my opinion, not just a billboard or a brochure. So you need call to actions, you need ways for people to make appointments online. You need easy way to make appointments online. Some of the products out there have gotten a little bit too many questions. You don't want it to ask as many questions. There's a newer product on the market from a dentist in Canada who created a really neat scheduling product called First In. And because it integrates with the practice management software, if you're an existing patient, it just asks you your name, your date of birth and last 4 digits of your social security number, I think. And it will automatically know if you're a patient or not. And it limits how many questions you get asked. That you have to make it really easy. If things aren't easy, then unfortunately people are not going to go through the process of doing it. So a
Well,
great
easy
website.
used to mean how many keystrokes, right?
Yep.
Or clicks, one or the other.
I think you need a somewhat really good SEO. And SEO is something that I think every practice has to do. It's not just about local SEO, it's website SEO. You have to invest money. You have to do Google AdWords, but you have to monitor them well to make sure they're working. You have to use a company that knows about negative keywords. You have to use a company that's going to meet with you, I would say, on a monthly basis to review the results so you can tweak how you're putting yourself out there. If you don't have this multifactorial way of marketing, you're not going to see great results, in my opinion.
So
You
you
know,
got a dentist. He's local. He's set up in a. Let's just pick a city, Chicago. Set up in Chicago, and he's in the city part. So within 1 mile, there's 50 dentists. So what are your advice, or what are some things that person can do to start to build this?
so when it comes to ranking, which I told you is really important, it's not just about the reviews, it's that local visibility. Google looks at a number of different ranking factors. Total number of reviews is certainly important. Okay. But even more important is the velocity of reviews, how many you're getting at any specific time. So if you have 1,000 reviews and you're getting one review a week, and then you have a practice who has 300 reviews, but is getting 5 reviews a week, the 5 reviews a week is a more important ranking factor than someone who's getting them 1,000 reviews and getting them once a week. Okay. So velocity is really important. Okay. Score definitely plays a role, but it's not a
What was it?
significant.
Score? What'd you say? Score?
Yeah, score. What is your rating? So 4.7 stars,
Okay. All
4.8
right.
stars.
How many
Okay.
stars? Yeah, yeah,
I just
yeah.
don't want you to be below 4.5. 4.6 to 5.0 is fine. Okay. Just don't go below 4.5. Another big ranking factor is your primary category. And people, what's the primary category? If you go to Google yourself and it will tell, hey, it will say dentist in a county or dentist in a town. Dentist is your primary category. Okay. You don't want it to say dental clinic. Okay. If you're a periodontist, you don't want it to say dentist. You want it to say periodontist. So you want to make sure your primary category is really important. Okay. I've seen so many with dental clinic. That's not good because in the US, clinics is not what we call our practices. In Canada, that's very popular as clinic. We're a practice or an office. Okay. So primary category is important. Secondary categories are important as well. So you can have up to 9 secondary categories. Okay. So people always ask me, what do I use for secondary categories? So if you do aligners, you can put orthodontist. If you take teeth out, you can put oral surgeon. If you do hygiene, you can do dental hygiene. If you do teeth whitening, you can do teeth whitening services. If you like dentures, you could put denture care center. So you want to go through the various dental categories and you can select up to 9 of them. Another big ranking factor is making sure those are correct. And then one of the biggest ranking factors is that Google wants the data online to be consistent. So what data are we talking about? What's the name of the practice, the address of the practice, and the phone number? It's called a NAP. And that data needs to be consistent on these local directories that Google looks at for trust. And if the data is inconsistent or not accurate, then you find that you're not ranking and your competitor may be ranking higher than you, but their data may be more consistent as well. So the data name, so you want your practice, if you're branding your practice name, make sure the practice name is what is consistent. If you want your name in there, I would do the practice name, colon, and then your name. Okay. I just met an oral surgeon last week who just bought a practice and is branding himself, not his practice. I told him that's a big mistake. Put your name after the practice name. Because that eventually your name means nothing when you move. It's not like it's Dr. Sonny Spera, it's the name of your business. Okay. So you want to make sure that everything's on right. When it comes to your address, the biggest issues are if you have drive or DRVE or suite or STE or number or unit, all this data has to be consistent. And if it isn't, Google doesn't trust you and you're not going to rank. Once you check those boxes, okay, you definitely will find your practice gaining in ranking. And when it gains in ranking, you have the visibility. And when you have the visibility and you have those reviews, that's how you bring patients, new patients into the practice. And when you ask them how they found out about you, they're going to say, I Googled you, or I looked you up and I read these great reviews and that's why I came in. That's how this really results in a continued growth of organically generated patients, not having to pay for them necessarily.
I'll tell you one thing, because your distinction, there's a distinction often made between rural and urban practices, right? And people think, well, out in the country, rural, that's not. But one thing I will say, if you do some of these things, you're going to attract people that are not just from your little small section of the world. And people will find you because they have a computer in their home, because they are looking at these things. And that is how they ascertain some services. They're not getting it from TV ads. The TV market must be incredibly difficult now because of you have your streaming, you have your little ads running, things pop up, you look at your mini videos that you get caught up in sometimes. It's a completely different thing than what this is. Now, is there a difference in we'll call it the quality of the patient who sees your online presence versus someone who sees your ad?
So people always talk about this is a very common question I get, and I want to differentiate between ads that we're talking about. So there's Google AdWords, which are expensive. Okay, let's be real. It's expensive. You spend a lot of money. And then there's social media ads, Facebook and Instagram, which are a lot less expensive. Part of the reason is when someone's doing a Google search, their buying intent. If they're looking for an orthodontist near me, they're looking for an orthodontist near me. And that is something that they're obviously looking to find out about. Okay. If you're just doing social ads in the feed that are popping up, there's no buying intent. That's why they're so much less expensive. That's why you need to do a nice combination of those. But ultimately, someone sees your ad, they refer you. What are they going to do? They're going to Google you, and they're going to look you up, and they're going to read what other people said about you. Ultimately, that's going to determine how they make their decisions. So that's why these reviews still play an important role, even if you're doing significant amount of advertising. A lot of startups do Google ads because that's the only way they know to get visible very quickly. But I always warn those startup practices, they have to be really careful because ultimately you're paying for the AdWord, you're paying for the administration of the AdWord. And if you only have 10 reviews, you're not going to get great conversion. So that's how all these things are interconnected somewhat.
Gotcha. What about if you have a video ad, right? Like a more
like a testimonial, someone.
Yeah, something. Or like a cute little, hey, this denture broke and you're repairing or you're fixing it for the patient, and then it's an ad to go see this doctor. As opposed,
it definitely works. I mean, it's a form of social proof.
Yeah, doesn't it bring differences in the patients that respond to that? Is that a factor?
Yeah. Here's another thing. Where do insurance patients find their dentist most of the time?
Oh, people are depending on insurance. They're looking at their insurance book.
They look in their insurance network. They go to to their insurance website, and then they get a list of 5 people. They Google them to decide who they're coming into. Okay. Sure. Where do fee-for-service patients find their dentist normally?
I'm going to probably think more from satisfied patients or patients,
friends or family who recommends, but also they also do look online for a dentist near me. So that's the big differentiator. If you want to attract the fee-for-service patients, you have to be more visible online than if you're an insurance practice. The insurance patients are driven to you because of the insurance companies. That's
I've heard people call it. I've heard people use that term. Say that's my marketing is being on that plan. And that's why I take the 20 to 30% haircut.
And that's a very big differentiator. And I want to make sure, and that's what I was going to bring up now, is if you are accepting insurance, you are a network provider. When I ask you, are you doing marketing? The answer is yes, I am. And that answer is you're doing insurance marketing because you're letting the insurance company take a 20 to 30% payments in reduction in fee to get listed higher or to take their plan. So that's a form of marketing. Okay. It's not a write-off, in my opinion.
So do the math. Do the math, right? If you're taking a 20% haircut and you're doing, just say, 100 grand a month, it's how much is you're paying. And if you take that money and you apply it to other areas that you can market directly, can you make it work?
You have to see. The issue is most dentists are not willing to, let's just use $1 million, okay? And they're taking a 25% haircut. That means they're throwing away $250,000. I would rather them take a quarter or a third of that money and invest it in marketing, and you'll make a ton more money. But nobody wants to do that. They'd rather take the write-off, which doesn't make sense to me.
Look at the ROI. You didn't say take the 250 and spend 250. You said spend a third of that. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
So 80 grand. Spend 80, and in the end, your numbers are totally different.
Correct, right? 100% so.
Now that's some simple math, folks. Nobody's telling you what to do. Just putting out numbers and you make your own decisions on it. But you have to recognize that is a marketing expense.
100%. And that's the most important thing. You have to recognize it, and most don't do that. When I tell people that, I give them my opinion on that, their eyes open up like I never thought of it that way.
Yeah, it's like a light bulb moment. I remember someone talking about that, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's extra. And it was a guy, Ben Burke, and he goes through the whole formula. He wrote a book on it. Actually, like the game plan of whether or not you should move out of insurances. And he has a whole strategy and the whole numbers and stuff. And he used that, and I was like, wow, you're right. That's exactly what it is.
Correct.
I've not been in that world. I've always been out of network. So I don't have a full appreciation for the other side.
I've always been out of network. The worst thing I did for my practice was when I brought my associate in. She was concerned that my patients wouldn't see hers. So she asked to go in network with insurances. And we went into some plans, and we negotiated pricing, and it was a cluster of problems because when I wasn't there, my patients became her patients that were fee-for-service patients that all of a sudden became in network. And it tanked my numbers for a couple of years. So that was not a great idea that we did that, but it is what it is. I would not recommend that to anybody, is separating your practice and have some do insurance and some do not insurance. It really can cause a lot of problems.
All right, last piece, we'll wrap up this show, and we're going to do another one right after. But you talked about the online and what it is from a young dentist. What about your advice for someone who has their website, has spent some money on SEO, and they're, I'm going to say confused, they're floundering a little bit. Like they're not really feeling that this is being a good business decision for them. What are some things that you would say to them?
So usually I would tell them that if your gut tells you something's not right, go with your gut. There's many times, but you also have to be patient. So you can't hire a company and 3 months expect there to be a result. It's not going to happen. The only way to get to page 1 of Google like that is to pay for an ad. Okay. Other than that, things are going to take time. So you need to have some patience. But if your gut tells you that something's not right, it most likely is not right. There are very many consultants out there. There are many companies out there that can give you advice without that, don't have bias. Like if people reach out to me asking me for advice, I sell BirdEye. That's where I sell reviews. I don't have bias when it comes to marketing companies. I tell you like it is. I'll tell you if they're doing their job properly. I'll tell you if they're pulling the rug over your head and eyes so you can't see anything. You need to get Google Analytics. Something that you can refer to is your Google Analytics results. They should be providing you with access to Google Analytics. If they are reproducing it into a report, they're hiding something from you. Okay, so you want your access to analytics so you can actually see the live data and go back and check things. If they're just showing you screenshots, there's a problem there. Okay, if they're using tracking numbers that are all over the place, the same exact number, what are they actually tracking? They're not tracking anything. They're putting their marketing number all over their the marketing they're doing for you, and they're taking credit for all the calls you're getting then that are not necessarily theirs. Here's an example, Sonny. If I'm a patient of yours and I refer Susie Jones to you, and then Susie Jones does what every normal patient would do, and they Google your practice, okay? And there's a phone number there, and that's not your actual phone number, but a tracking number, and they call that tracking number. Is that a marketing lead or is that a patient referral. It's a patient referral, but the marketing company is taking credit for that. Okay. So that's where your data is going to be thrown off because they're going to say we delivered all these patients and all these phone calls when very few of them are there. So this is a very common thing that I see. But again, I think you need to find a trusted resource in the industry and ask them to analyze or look at the results that you're getting. And many times you're going to see that you're paying for something that you're not getting. And you got to really control what we call the cost of customer acquisition, called the CAC. You don't want your cost of customer acquisition or patient acquisition to be thousands of dollars. You want it to be a couple $100 max. Okay. So you really have to watch that, how much it's costing you to actually get these patients into the practice, because otherwise you're not making money. It's costing you so much money to bring them in. And if you're not really good at selling dentistry, and I hate to use the word selling, but if you're not getting case acceptance, you're not getting patients to say yes to treatment, they're coming and then leaving, you're absolutely losing money because you've got to get them to convert to actually and say yes to treatment to actually make the money. So that's, if you don't think something's working and you have a gut, something's not working, go with your gut and have someone analyze it for you.
Can't say it any better myself. Great advice, Len. Appreciate you very much. If people want to reach out and find you, where do they find you?
I'm the easiest guy to reach out to. My cell phone number's all over the internet. It's always easiest to text me so I can answer it when I'm busy. My cell phone number is 215-292-2100. That's my cell phone number. My email is easy. It's len@drlentau.com. If you go to my website, drlentau.com, we just, within the last couple of days, released a new guide. It's a guide that was hidden to most people, but now we made it public, where you'll see my preferred resources. There's probably 35 or 40 companies on this list. It gives you their contact information. It tells you what they do. And it also will give you a link to schedule time. All of these people have been fully vetted by me over the years. They don't get on that list unless they're vetted by me multiple times. You can take a look, go to that list. It's Len's preferred resources. It's like Oprah's favorites. It's Len's favorites. And you can see who's on the list. And those are companies that you could trust because they wouldn't be on my list otherwise.
Folks, authentic and real. Can't say it any better. Thanks, man.
Thanks, Sonny. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
This has been a production of Dentistry in General Radio Network. Visit our website, dentistryingeneral.com, to join engaging clinical and business conversations, explore our dental podcasts, and stay updated on our upcoming live events.